Thank you, Diane. Want to welcome the staff and members to the first DASNY meeting of 2022. We are not quite a full house today. Wellington Chen is not with us, but will be, and Adrian Schwarzewski, because of the state of the state, cannot be with us. There are several matters that have to be considered and resolved today, and we will have a meeting of the Atlantic Avenue Corporation after this meeting, a quick meeting of Atlantic Avenue. And we will welcome Craig to the meeting to give us a report. Sarah, if you'll call the roll, we can get going.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that, Mr. Chair. We have with us for the board members, our chair, Al Carney, vice chair, John Johnson, secretary Beryl Snyder, John Gardner, Jerry Romsky, Joan Sullivan, Janice McKinney, Ken Evans, and Phyllis Morris. Wellington Chen is delayed en route here, and Adrian Schwarzewski will not be in attendance today. From DASNY staff, we have our president, Ruben McDaniel, Paul Koopman, Kim Ellis, Steve Currow, Portia Lee, Caroline Griffin, Nadine Fontaine, Nairobi Vivas, Jeff Arnold, Fred Clark, Matt Bergen, Portia Lee, Alex Sardine, David Ostrander, Deb Fasser, Ricardo Salaman, Craig Schreivogel, Kathy Ebert, Dina Amodio, and I think that is it for DASNY staff. And joining us from outside counsel, we have Melissa Bennett and Barry Lights.
Sarah, thank you very, very much. My first order of business today is to thank Diane Folletti for giving us 36 years, giving DASNY 36 years of top shelf service. She has worked with the board for her entire time at DASNY and has demonstrated, at least during my tenure, the kind of attention to detail that one does not often see. The emails that have gone back and forth between Diane and me have been terrifically helpful. Diane knows what we do. She knows how we do it. And while nobody is on any board or any staff is indispensable, Diane will probably demonstrate, her departure will demonstrate she will get as close to indispensability as we will ever get, at least while I'm around. Diane, thank you very much. Your service has been amazing. It isn't appropriate that we do a resolution for you, but if it were to be appropriate, I would certainly write that one myself. You made me look good, and I'm very grateful for it. All right. We will now get to the business of the meeting. Oh, Diane, I'm sorry. If you want to say anything, please say it, or think about it, and we'll do it at the end of the meeting. And if you don't want to say it,
thank you for those kind. No, I just wanted to say thank you for those kind remarks, Al. I really have enjoyed working with this current board and past boards, and it's been my pleasure to serve for the past 36 years. Thank you.
Please know that we will miss you. And we're going to lean hard on Ruben to figure out what to do next. We'll see what he does. All right. The first order of business is the approval of the minutes. You all have had a chance to read the minutes. Are there any proposed changes, revisions, comments? Hearing none, I have one. And Sarah has revised the minutes at page 7 to reflect my own view that we needed to have either a dollar figure or a percentage increase in the budget that was approved. That is, there's no change in the substance. There is a change in the minutes to reflect that fact. And Sarah, do you have in front of you the language that you've added to that?
Multiple on cash flow right now.
I do have the language. So at the end of the paragraph under financial report on page 7, a sentence will be added that reads, the summary depicts an increase of $1,400,000 over the adopted budget of $113,641,245, resulting in a revised budget of $115,041,245. And I did confirm those numbers with Kim Ellis, and Nadine approved the language as well.
Well, Kimberly, thank you for helping Sarah to get that done. Nadine, thank you for your approval. I'll ask again, are there any comments or changes to the minutes other than the one that Sarah has just introduced? Hearing no comment, may I have a motion, please, to approve the resolution?
It's Joan. I make the motion.
Thank you very much, Joan. Is there a second?
I'll second. This is Beryl.
Beryl, thank you very much. All in favor, please indicate with aye.
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 Aye. Is there anyone opposed to or abstaining from the vote? Then we have unanimous approval of the minutes. Thank you all very much. President McDaniel, we now go to tab 2 for the adoption of financing documents. Take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it. And behind tab 2, you will find the financing documents for Wagner College. You'll recall that in November, we passed the resolution to proceed for this transaction. And today we have the update and presentation from Dave Ostrander of Dazny, Melissa Bennett of Barclay Damon, and Barry Lights of Barry Lights Law Firm. Dave?
Well, first, Melissa, Barry, thank you for joining us. David, take it away.
Thanks very much. Good morning, everyone. I just have a brief update for the members. This is a transaction you'll recall that we brought to the board in November for resolution to proceed, where we described the transaction in detail. There's been no change in purpose of the financing that was described to the members at that time. But with Dazny's shift to market-based security guidelines in recent years, I wanted to provide an update on the expected security package for this transaction. As previously discussed with the members, Wagner currently meets the requirements under Dazny's current financing guidelines for the bonds to be issued as a general unsecured obligation of the college, with any additional security provisions determined by existing market conditions. The current expectation of Morgan Stanley, who's the underwriter for this transaction, is that investors will be seeking a pledge of revenues and a negative pledge. Certain financial covenants are also expected. We've reviewed comparable higher education transactions that have been brought to the market recently, and these requirements are consistent with other similar transactions rated in the BBB category. That's really my update. Unless there's any questions, I will turn it over to Melissa and Barry to describe the documents.
Thank you, David.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Good morning, Dazny board members and senior staff. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning. As further detailed in our letter to the board, before the board for your consideration is the adoption of a Wagner College bond resolution authorizing the issuance of multiple series of bonds at one or more times, and the adoption of a series resolution authorizing the issuance of up to $110 million of Wagner College revenue bonds. The general resolution is a new resolution based on Dazny's new model resolution and constitutes the agreement between Dazny and the holders of the bonds issued under it, and contains the basic terms that apply to each series of bonds. The series resolution authorizes the issuance of up to $110 million aggregate principal amount of bonds in one or more series at one or more times, and delegates to authorized officers of Dazny the power, among others, to determine the final terms of the bonds, subject to certain limitations described in our letter, and authorizes the entry into a loan agreement or loan agreements and other customary transaction documents. The bonds will be special obligations of Dazny, payable solely from the revenues pledged to the bonds, which are primarily payments made under the applicable loan agreement, and the monies and investments held in funds and accounts established with respect to the series of bonds. I'll now turn the presentation over to my co-bond counsel, Barry Lights, to discuss the loan agreement. Thank you.
Good morning and Happy New Year to all. The loan agreement will require Wagner College to make payments in amounts and at times sufficient to make timely payments on the bonds. and will also contain certain financial covenants. The loan agreement will be assigned to the trustee with limited reservation of rights to DASNY, including those with respect to the preservation of the tax-exempt status of the bonds, payment of DASNY fees, and indemnification. As mentioned, consistent with the DASNY financing guidelines for independent institutions, specific security, if any, for the college's obligations under each loan agreement will be determined by the underwriter and the college based on current market conditions and practices. Melissa and I are happy to address any questions or concerns that you may have. Thank you very much.
Barry, Melissa, thank you both very much. Are there questions for David, Melissa, or Barry? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to approve the resolution?
I will
So
move.
moved.
This is Beryl. And I'll second.
Thank you, John Gardner, and thank you, Beryl. I should point out that this matter went before the Finance Committee in November and was approved to be recommended to the board. There was no need to bring it back to the Finance Committee for a second consideration. The motion has been properly moved and seconded. May I have a voice vote? All in favor, please indicate with aye.
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 Aye. Are there any opposed or are there any abstentions? Hearing none, the resolution is passed unanimously. Thank you all very much. Mr. President, I think you're next on deck.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, good morning to everyone and Happy New Year. Hope everyone had a great and safe holiday season. I sure did. So looking forward to a wonderful 2022. We sent our staff members on Monday morning a recap of our 2021 accomplishments, and I want to share that with the board to start my report today. So Sarah, if you could share the screen and put that up, that'd be great.
Sure, I will do that and just recommend beforehand that if you have your view on gallery view, that you change it to pin my screen so that you will be able to best see it. So with that, I will share my screen.
I have no idea what you just said, Sarah.
Well,
Don't-
the video
don't
may be
explain.
small.
Don't
but you can
explain.
see it.
It'll be fine.
It'll work just fine.
Am I the only person who cannot hear the president?
No, I was gonna say we don't have sound.
We should probably start it again, if that's possible.
I apologize. I could hear it. Wait, you gonna try it, Diane?
No.
There is a speaker at the bottom of the screen. Should I tap on it?
You could try that. Hold on, we'll try it one more time. It was working earlier this morning.
It's a machine. When you most need it, it craps out on you.
Yeah, I'm not hearing it either. My apologies.
Well, it was wonderful, and all my comments were fantastic.
Well, you're giving, how about Mr. President, while you're giving the rest of your report, I will make a phone call or two and maybe we can show it at the end of your report.
Yeah, that's fine. If not, we'll just send it out. But we did send a nice note out. We had a given the challenges of 2021, DASNY had a great calendar year, and I'm very proud of all the work that the team did, changing situations very quickly. Of course, that has led into our change in reopening plans. We've talked about this a million times, it seems like, since the beginning of 2020. But given the Omicron variant and given just how many of our DASNY employees, unfortunately, have been either personally affected or have family members infected, we decided to go remote until January the 15th, and we'll reassess at that point. Again, we just decided for the holiday season and the surge, we were better safe than sorry, particularly given the limited number of staff we have generally. So we're all working remotely now. We hope to be back in the office sometime sooner rather than later, but we'll continue to monitor from the governor's office and the statistics and make the decisions that are most prudent for our staff and for our clients. So looking forward to getting that going. Second, I want to talk a little bit about the MWBE conference. Last month in December, we had the state had a wonderful conference. Those who've been around DASNY for a long time will recall that this MWBE conference was started by DASNY so many years ago and was was taken over by the state. Unfortunately, because of the COVID situation, it was more hybrid than we had hoped. But I can tell you that DASNY was featured in the conference in a couple of different forums. Michael Clay, David Kamite, and others did a presentation on our capital management program that got very good reviews, great attendance, and a lot of follow-up questions. So that was a wonderful presentation. Paul did a nice session on procurement, and Nadine presented one of the awards at the forum award ceremony. We were a signature sponsor this year. Jerome Duvall at ESD is first year, so we were glad to sponsor that. And again, I think a great conference. But as exciting, and maybe more exciting than the conference on the MWBE front, is we received our first and second quarter scorecard yesterday, and DASNY once again got an A+ on our MWBE. So I want to just take my hat off to Michael Clay and the OPG group, all of procurement, and all of us who've done such a great job in not only promoting MWBEs, but also making sure that diligently we have reported and made sure MWBEs have the support that they need to be successful. So another A+ for us on that, and always a great note for us to have there.
And not
Al.
our first A+, hopefully not our last. Michael Clay, as you have said many times, Mr. President, is doing an outstanding job of representing DASNY and of steadily improving DASNY's MWEB work. He is to be commended. He presented to this board several months ago, as I recall, and he didn't get the round of applause he deserved then. And unfortunately, when you're meeting distantly, rounds of applause don't much matter. But when we see Michael again, I'd like very much to make sure that he gets a standing ovation. Michael Clay is doing an amazing job with DASNY's MWBE work. And I will thank him personally, but I'd like to see the board thank him as well.
No, I agree, Alan. Thank you for those comments. Michael and his group have done a wonderful job. Clearly a leader in the state for how we execute, and gives me the chance to have my chest out when people talk about MWB at the state. So I really appreciate the work that's done on that group. Absolutely, absolutely.
And Mr. President, might you comment? Unfair to do this to you because I didn't warn you, but Michael Clay and David Kamite apparently presented together at the MWBE conference. For those who don't remember, David Kamite, he's an independent contractor who came to DASNY years ago and did spectacular work on MWBE. Is there something, please don't hesitate to say something about him if you choose to do so, Ruben. He's a great guy.
Thanks, Al. I think that's, it's really important to note that, for Michael's group, Michael Clay's group, they not only think about just how to day-to-day get the work done and meet the requirements, but really think about the needs of our customers. And one of the big deficiencies in the MWB space is a lack of capital generally. And as you all know, we have significant bonding requirements for our construction work. And so a lot of the smaller firms have a difficult time competing. And so as we mentioned before, I think to this board, David Kamite, the Kamite group, came to us with an idea. Michael embraced it. They spent about 2 years working on it. We partnered with LISC, which is a not-for-profit organization, and we now have a $10 million bonding program exclusive to DASNY. And so anytime an MWBE is doing business with DASNY, they can access our own exclusive $10 million bonding program so they can bid on work that might be larger than they could have bid on without the bonding support. And it has been not only accepted wildly by our MWBE partners, but also other organizations in the state and out of the state have been looking at us to ask how we did it. And we really think this will be a model program throughout the country for how you can assist with small MWBE improvements in their access to capital through the bonding mechanism. So we're really excited about this program, and we, like I said, we've been featured on a lot of different forums. Michael and the folks from LISC and David Kamite have done some presentations on this, and just been really, really well received. So I'm really proud of the work that we did. I've done there, and that will only grow. So yeah, you're right, Mr. Chairman. David Kamite has been a good partner of DASNY. He and Michael are also stirring the pot for some other ideas, and I am sure they will come up with some things that will be equally, if not more impressive going forward. So I'm just excited about what we're doing there.
Terrific. Congratulations to you, Ruben, for the role you've played in enhancing, improving what was already, I think, a very, very good MWBE program. It has gotten better under your leadership, and we on the board who understand MWBE are very grateful for that. Thank you. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Put me on the spot anytime. Happy to do it. My next section is retirees. In 2021, we had 25 employees retire from DASNY. They were mostly, almost all were at retirement age and or range from years of service. As we've seen in the pandemic, we've had some employees who probably stayed on longer than they would have normally, given working remotely. And we've also had some employees who, as we begin to think about coming back to the office, have decided to retire maybe before they would have normally, although certainly from a year's perspective, they could. So we've had 25 retirees. We expect some more this year. However, we have done a nice job of beginning to reorganize and refill and recruit. Steve Kerr will talk a little bit about that in his report. But I'm very excited about getting some new blood in here. But before we do that, we want to honor our retirees. And so, Mr. Chairman, we have a resolution before the board today to honor our retirees. It is unfortunate that we have not been able to have a retiree celebration in a moment. But I can tell you, once we get back in person, we will have a big party for our retirees and our years of service recognition as well. So, Mr. Chairman, you have a resolution for the board for.
I do. I've seen it. The board has had a chance to read the resolution. Are there any recommended changes? Does anybody have any questions about it? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to approve that resolution?
It's Joan. I make the motion.
Thank you, Joan. Is there a second?
Janice, I second it.
Janice, thank you very much. All in favor, please indicate with aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Aye. And I'm going to assume that there is no opposition or abstentions from the vote, so the motion carries unanimously. Thank you all very much. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, board. Really appreciate all of that. And again, I just can't say enough. Just thanking all of the folks who worked at DASNY for such a long period of time that make it the place that it is. And so we just look forward to being able to honor those retirees in a more significant way. But very excited to do that now. Just some routine things. We did file on time as normal our annual report. Kim and Ellis and our group are now working on the next year's annual report, but that did get filed with the state properly. You also have copies of that electronically. If you need a hard copy, happy to send that to you. We've tried to save trees by not printing out a full mass printing, but certainly have it available for you if you'd like. We also submitted a first draft of our budget. You'll be seeing that over the next couple of months. That's not to be approved until April, but as they do the budgeting process, we have to submit our preliminary budget to the state by December 31st. That was done. And then today at 1 o'clock is the governor's State of the State address. I hope you all will tune into that. It's on the governor's webpage. We'll have a live stream. Unfortunately, it's not as much pomp and circumstance as would have been in normal times. but this will be our governor's first State of the State address. And so we're very much looking forward to that. We have several proposals that will be impacted by the words that she says today. So, fingers crossed, but we're really looking forward to a wonderful 2022. With that, Sarah, do we have our video up and ready to go?
But before you move on, Mr. President, the members have all had a chance to take a look at the annual report. I have to tell you, except for the binding, which is spiral back this year, probably not what you wanted to do, but probably reasonably inexpensive. It's a terrific report. This report has gotten better every year over the last few years, but particularly, Ruben, under your leadership. This report is simple, easy to read, self-explanatory, and it's chock-a-block full of information. And it's not information that is difficult to understand, as is the case with some of the annual reports we all see. So thank you very much for that.
Oh, great. I'm glad, and I just want to commend everybody on the staff. Obviously, Kim, her group did a lot of work on the actual numbers behind the report. Jeff Gordon, his group did a lot of work around the final product and the policy of the report. But everyone had some input into that report and reviewed it and all those things. So it was always great to get that done well. My lawyer sent me a note that I need to make a comment about the State of the State address, or suggested I make a comment about the State of the State address. You will hear in the governor's comments about the Office of Cannabis Management a reference to a $200 million equity fund to support small businesses and the social equity applicants getting capital for their build out of dispensaries. What you will probably not mention directly, although we may get a little bit of mention, is that DASNY will be doing the work for those dispensaries. And so for the next 12 to 18 months, DASNY will be putting together a program to do the construction work, locate and open 150 dispensaries around the state of New York that will be occupied by some of our social equity licensees. And for those of you not familiar with that term, social equity licensees in the state of New York means you came from a neighborhood that was disproportionately impacted by the overpolicing of cannabis. You have a median income at some range in the 80% of median income, and you have been just as involved with cannabis. And so this program is really to help communities that have been impacted negatively by the overpolicing of cannabis. And so as you can imagine, one of the challenges, like our MWBE program, is access to capital. And so this is a big program. It's a very exciting. I've tried to keep us behind the scenes on this, but it'll be a great program for us as well. And we'll certainly fill in some gaps over the 2022, 2023 time period. So I'm personally very excited about this.
What's the amount, Ruben? The social equity fund?
The total fund will be $200 million. The state will make a significant investment, and the balance will be raised in the private markets.
And I'm sorry, I had to go stop the phone from ringing, and I don't know anything about this. DASNY is going to be involved in raising the capital. Is that what you're saying?
Well, actually, our primary involvement will be in the construction of these facilities. So just for a little background, again, not to carry on too long, but just for a little bit of background.
Hold on for just a second.
Yeah, no problem.
My phones are going nuts here, and I don't know how to stop them.
Pick up the red one, Al. Pick up the red one.
I am just technically challenged by a damn phone. Forgive me.
No problem. But the typical dispensary is between 2,500 and 4,000 square feet, and typically costs anywhere from $750,000 to $2 million to build out. What Dazny will be doing is overseeing a program to assist in the build out of those dispensaries. They will be funded by the equity fund, and we'll have some role in the raising of that capital, but our primary responsibility will be a construction program for the next 18 months.
Terrific. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Very, very excited about that. With that, I want to go to our departmental reports. Portia, can you start us off today?
Sure thing. I wanted to start out with just a brief market update. Total new issuance volume for 2021 ended up at $475.3 billion compared to $484.6 billion in 2020. It's down about 2%. Total supply for this week is expected to be quite light at about 1.6 billion. Tax-exempt bond yields were higher on Tuesday with both the 10-year and the 30-year AAA MMD increasing by 3 basis points to 1.07% and 1.53% respectively. US government bond yields were higher as well as the 10-year Treasury yield increased by 3 basis points to a 1.66 and the 30-year Treasury yield increased by 6 basis points to a 2.07. Municipal bond funds reported inflows for the week ending December 29th after reporting inflows for the previous week as well. Since the November board meeting, our last board meeting, the 1-year MMD rate has increased by 6 basis points, the 10-year decreased by 1 basis point, and the 30-year MMD has remained the same at 1.53%. In that same time period, the 10-year Treasury yield has increased by 20 basis points and the 30-year Treasury has increased by 24 basis points. I wanted to note, as reflected in my report that's in your materials, we priced and closed 4 deals since the last board meeting. Just a little bit of color. The SUNY dorms deal, this was primarily a taxable advance refunding. It also included a tax-exempt tender and exchange feature. That feature generated an additional $5 million in savings for SUNY, so SUNY was quite pleased, as were we. We did bring to market the Pitt competitive deal. We combined the September authorization for refunding and swap terminations together with the November new money authorization and a portion of the November refunding authorization. This transaction was consistent in size with previous deals, around 2.49 billion. We terminated 24 swaps, the vast majority of our swap portfolio. I would note that a happy byproduct of this is that we have also eliminated the
I'm good. Yeah, I was looking for a charger. I just got to get the
administrative reporting and tracking work associated with the swaps.
That's all right.
Also,
Jerry, it's Al. You can be heard as Portia gives her report. You might want to go to mute.
Sorry about that, Al.
No. Of course, I know you didn't mean it. Things happen. Forgive me, Portia.
No worries. Also, while the authorization allowed us to issue bonds for up to 50 years for the MTA, the bonds for the MTA were 30 years. The bonds priced really well, and we were able to bring to market a transaction that was the most economically advantageous for the state. So we were all very pleased on that front. Lastly, on the bonds that priced and closed, we had Iona College and Urban Health Plan private placement. We priced Iona right before Thanksgiving and Urban Health Plan right before Christmas. Gerard was able to complete these 2 transactions prior to his retirement right around the holidays. So we'll obviously miss Gerard and we wish him well. I wanted to say a few words about issuance in 2021. Just a high-level overview. We brought 17 bond deals to market, totaling approximately $8 billion. This included 3 Pitt deals, SUNY dorms, school districts, OCs, interagency council, the urban health plan, and 9 higher ed deals, including the COVID-related restructurings for FIT and educational housing services for CUNY. I'd like to thank the public finance and portfolio monitoring staff, as well as legal and finance for their continued really outstanding work during the pandemic. Their commitment, hard work, and flexibility is evident in these financings. Lastly, I wanted to note that we're concluding our RFP for financial advisors and swap advisors. Again, any questions about that RFP should be directed to our procurement folks. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Portia. Before we leave your group, I wanted to say that I was surprised to learn that Gerard Clauser was retiring. Of course, he's earned it, and and life is good. He brought a special, his own brand actually, of of passion and compassion to his deals. He was a very thoughtful interpreter of the client's interests and needs, but he also threaded that needle well with the board. And I enjoyed his presentations very much. I wanted the record to reflect that, given that he's already attended his last board meeting. Thank you, Portia.
Well, thank you so much for acknowledging that, Al. And we'll make sure that Gerard knows.
Thank you very much. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Portia. And I just want to commend Portia's group and the other folks you mentioned. Great year for public finance, great transactions. All of our team always downplays their work, so I try to pump them up a little bit. That SUNY deal with the tender option to save the $5 million was not nearly as simple as Portia made it sound in her 2 seconds of acknowledgement. It was a very complex transaction. A lot of work went into it, and everybody in her group and legal spent a lot of time and energy on that. So yeah, excellent work on that piece. So thank you, Portia, and thank you, group. Much appreciated. Steve Curry, want to talk a little about construction, please?
Sure. Happy New Year, everyone. I'll start off with Javits and Moynihan. The Javits merged fire alarm system is being tested by FDNY currently, and we expect a report of their findings this week. Depending on the outcome, DASNY may be in position to issue a TAO for the merged project. What that means is the existing Javits Center had a new fire alarm system installed. Of course, the expansion project, the large expansion project, and the transformer building, all three of those are coming together under a merged application. And if successful, based on FDNY's findings, we will be in position to issue a TAO, which simply means that all three pieces can be used as one. On the Moynihan side, we continue to permit both commercial businesses, including recently new Walgreens, a couple of food court establishments, and we're spending a fair amount of time on the Facebook expansion on the balance of the building. That is moving along nicely, and we're hoping toward the end of this year that we will issue TAO for that Facebook space as well. Quickly on to SUNY, the Smith portion of the $15 million Smith Casey project. This is a 2-tower renovation project that SUNY Cortland started just this past December. As the students left for semester break. I guess I wish it was spring break.
Damn right.
We're looking to start the Awasting Hall project down at SUNY New Paltz. This is a $43 million residence hall renovation project, along with a $41 million Colonial Quad renovation project at SUNY Albany. All three of these projects originally were to start back in May of 2020, but were shelved due to the pandemic. So happy to see those moving forward. We're also moving into design on 2 additional projects that were shelved back then. A renovation project for a res hall at SUNY Morrisville and another at SUNY Oneonta. And while on SUNY, the FIT project continues to make progress on that foundation package 1, with substantial completion targeted for this month, the month of January. Our original substantial completion date for package 1 was December of this past year. However, several factors due to unforeseen conditions such as contaminated soil, the discovery of that, and some existing SOE structure remaining from a past campus build-out project delayed the completion. Following package 1, package 2, which is the build-out of the remaining building structure, will commence. Just on to CUNY, DASNY continues high-level meetings with CUNY's new vice chancellor to align on go-forward strategies associated with the CUNY Capital Project program. Ruben's been involved with these meetings, as has Mike Stabulus and myself. And Mike will deliver a presentation to the CUNY CUCF Board of Directors in February, just trying to convey the benefits of CUNY and DASNY working together and the historic successful results of that effort. Project-wise, there remains a pretty heavy workload on the CUNY program, several campuses progressing multiple construction projects at the same time. The $95 million Lehman College School of Nursing new build, like FIT, is working toward completion of the foundation phase. Quickly over to West Point. I was on site last week during a point of heavy construction activity where precast concrete elements were being placed for one of the bridge projects under construction being managed by DASNY. This is a $1.5 million bridge renovation project. It's moving along nicely. This follows on the heels of the completion of about a $500,000 bridge renovation project that was finished up back in December. Additional projects for the U.S. Military Academy in progress include a third bridge renovation project, a large retaining wall project, a building envelope project, and an outdoor pool renovation project. So things are going along rather nicely down there at West Point. And just to reiterate the discussion on retirements, the division experienced a significant outflow of talent, both due to retirements and resignations during 2021. We have begun backfilling. I'd like to thank Mr. Romsky for his recommendation. We actually brought on board that individual as a senior field rep down here in the New York City area. He will start in February. And in addition, we have about 20 other postings up for backfilling positions. It's really impossible to recognize all the CD staffers who have moved on. We did try in December during a CD-wide MS Teams meeting. There were many, many names and a lot of talent going out the door. Of note is the hiring of Molly Larkin, who comes to DASNY in the capacity of Director, Upstate Design and Construction. This is really a new position that merges together the PDQA group, which is our design group, and our construction project managers into one group for the Upstate region. Molly is a Union College civil engineering graduate. She also has her MBA from Union College. She's worked for Gilbane and most recently in a position similar to mine for the Office of General Services and EFC. So we're fortunate to bring her on board. We started with her in mid-December. She's quickly coming up to speed, working very closely with Tim McGrath and our design folks. And we expect really big things from her in the future. And just on the PM web front, we continue with the implementation of this project management system. We have more than 20 projects in the system today. We got word in December that 29 new community minor maintenance projects from OPWDD were coming our way as part of the 22-23 OPWDD CMM program. All these projects will also be administered through PM Web. And just before concluding my remarks, I'll ask that if really anyone on the board is aware of friends, family, acquaintances who work in the architecture, engineering, or construction project management professions, we like to hire folks that somebody knows. It's always a good thing. So just send my contact information along and we'll take it from there. That concludes my report. I'll take any questions at this time.
Any questions for Steve?
Before you move on, Steve, several things. First, congratulations on your success in introducing DASNY to the United States Military Academy. It's a feather in DASNY's cap, a feather in your cap. And I'm sure that those negotiations were not the easiest, even among the easiest, but you've done it successfully. You've got future projects, future plans, and I think that's terrific.
Al, I just want to make note that really the heavy lifting on the negotiations was done by our legal team. Kay Edwards,
well, of course,
and Wolf, those two played a significant role. I can tell you we were up late at night negotiating with West Point. They really would look at DASNY as a construction operation rather than a service provider or a owner's representative. So the negotiations were difficult, but between Kay and Brendan, the heavy lifting was accomplished.
And at some point, I think the board knows Kay, and I'm almost certain the board knows Brendan, but at some point, it might be advantageous they're doing a great job, and it would be great to give them an opportunity to say a few words to this board. However you and Nadine and Ruben decide to do that, but they're working awfully hard and they're doing a fine job. They're working smart. I also wanted to say congratulations to you on the Upstate hire. The conflation of the the two offices that you described earlier, it sounds like we've got a very, very good person in that job. I'll ask you after the meeting whether or not we had to make an exception on a pay scale somewhere. But on the assumption that we didn't, she sounds like a terrific new hire. And good luck. I don't know how you and Portia keep up with the number of projects you're dealing with and the myriad personalities involved in those projects, but your reports are always outstanding, and I, as are Portia's, of course. But I just don't know how you can stay on top of all of that work. Thank you for all you do for Dazny.
I think Portia would be the first to agree with me in that we don't really keep up with all the projects, but the staff does. Thanks to the staff, not really Portia and me.
And Diogenes has now met an honest man. Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr.
Mr. Chairman. For the sake of time, I'll just say ditto. Stevens, his group have done a great job. Thank you, Steve.
Terrific.
Kim Ellis, give us a quick finance update, please.
Thank you, Ruben. Included in your materials are the monthly financial report and the quarterly investment report. Unless anyone has any questions on either of those, I'm going to focus my report on the proposed operating budget, which is located in the confidential and draft tab of your materials. But before I get started, I do want to acknowledge Jeff Arnold, our Director of Budget and Operations, who as always has done a great job preparing the budget materials presented here today. In accordance with the Public Authorities Accountability Acts of 2005 and 2009, DASNY posted the 2022-23 proposed budget and financial plan on the internet and to the Public Authorities Reporting Information System on December 29th, meeting the requirement to file 90 days in advance of the beginning of the fiscal year. Our operating expenditures for next year are proposed to be approximately $116 million, representing an increase of 1.1% over the 2021-22 revised operating budget previously approved at the November board meeting. As in past years, the budget was prepared without insight into the state's budget, and DASNY has assumed a continuation of historic levels of support. That being said, staff will review the state budget when it is released and will advise the members of any impact to the proposed budget when it is presented for approval at the March meeting. As outlined on the highlights page, salaries are projected to increase by $1.7 million, which reflects an anticipated increase in FTEs by 11 as we continue to staff up in critical areas and project needs for new initiatives. Employee benefits are projected to decrease by $1.7 million, which is driven by a $2.4 million reduction in retirement contributions based on decreased rates received from the retirement system. This was offset by higher Social Security taxes as a reflection of the increased FTEs, a 3% increase in health insurance premiums due to higher rates of participation, and an increased miscellaneous benefits, which includes amounts for employee COVID testing. Maintenance and operations are projected to increase due to information technology needs, replacement of older fleet vehicles, and rent for new office space in Buffalo. Overall, we're projecting a deficit of $2.8 million for the year, primarily driven by anticipated revenue shortfall in support of the CUNY program as reflected on page 4 of your materials. We continue to have discussions with both CUNY and DOB on how to address this program deficit. Unless anyone has questions, that concludes my overview.
Thank you, Kimberly. Are there questions?
Yeah, this may be directed to Paul. Where did we decide the new office space will go in Buffalo?
We're heading towards Transit Road. We haven't finalized the lease, but closer to the UB campus.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
John.
Thank you, Kim. We appreciate that report. Again, you all will see the budget in March. We are in constant negotiations with CUNY and DOB about how to solve that issue, but we will address it one way or the other. Now I want to move on to Nadine and the legal report. Before she jumps in, I want to highlight after she does her legal report, she will turn it over to Nairobi Vives, who's our new head of diversity and inclusion. You'll recall that Michael Johnson used to hold that role. He was appointed to another organization and left us a few months ago. Nairobi who's our legal department, one of our young and upcoming stars, has taken over his role. We're very excited about the work that she's doing, and she'll give a brief presentation on some of her vision for diversity and inclusion. So with that, Nadine.
Thank you. I just have a brief update. The legal team is continuing efforts to retain our procurement and continue our procurement for outside counsel legal services. So that procurement is still ongoing and we're still in our closeout period. Did report on that during our last meeting, and that effort is continuing. I also indicated in our last meeting that there will be board training, JCOPE ethics training. So do expect to hear from Monica Norris and also Amanda Nazario, who's currently assisting the ethics team. So she will be reaching out to the board to schedule the training, board training, ethics training upcoming in the next couple of weeks. So do be on the lookout for those communications. Lastly, we also have a new hire. Dwight Flynn is a new attorney that's been added to our team. There's been a series of departures. Al, you mentioned Brendan Wolf. He's departed the legal team. So we're trying to backfill that position, as well as a position for the managing counsel and finance. Those negotiations, we're close to hiring. The negotiations for bringing those two individuals are currently in the works, and we hope to have those two positions backfilled shortly. But we do have a new hire, Dwight Flynn. He comes to us from ESD, the Economic Development Corporation. He was the director of compliance for the MWBE division. Previously, he worked at HESC and also has worked at gaming and the Lottery Commission. So he has an extensive experience on MWBE participation. He's going to provide significant support to the legal team, has a significant procurement experience as well. So he's a new addition to the team. So we just wanted to make the board aware of that.
Okay, thank you, Nadine.
You're very welcome. So that concludes my report, and I'm going to turn it over to Nairobi Vivas, our new director, as Ruben has indicated, to provide an update on the office and the status of her work and where she sees the diversity and inclusion work proceeding. So,
Nadine, this is Joan. I have a quick question. Sure. Earlier this week, JCOPE sent out a notice on training. Is that the same training, and should we not register under JCOPE and wait for DASNY training?
Wait for DASNY training. Monica will be in touch.
Very good. Thank you. Thanks, Al.
You're welcome.
Good morning. As Nadine and Ruben had said, I am Nairobi Vivas, and I am the Director of Diversity and Inclusion for DASNY. I will be sharing my screen. If you give me 1 second. And if everyone can see, I will start the presentation. Today, I'm pleased to be here with everyone. Happy New Year. And I am here just to talk about our current assessment and path forward for DASNY's diversity and inclusion initiatives. So sorry. There we go. In December 1st, 2018, Executive Order 187 created the Office of Diversity and Inclusion Management. And late 2019, ODM disseminated the Workforce Development and Inclusion Assessment Survey 2019 Annual Report and the 2019 Quantitative Worksheet. DASNY and other state entities completed them, and ODM analyzed the results for each entity and compared them the statewide findings based on 13 categories. And the categories that you see before you are the categories that ODM used to assess the D&I status of each state entity. DASNY did very well, and not surprising, in the following: leadership and involvement and accountability, outreach, recruitment and hiring, and customer service. And some of the highlights were the creation of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion and D&I issues being discussed at the executive management level, and DASNY really taking a top-down approach to D&I issues. Also, our regular review of policies and procedures, our formal recruitment policy, the promotion of diversity, inclusion in the recruitment process, our formal process for exit interviews, excellence in engaging internal and external stakeholders, and specifically, as we've spoken about on this in this meeting, our OPG group and the great work that they do was highlighted, as well as our, in terms of recruitment, our diversity fellowship program. And we've also been highlighted for the mechanisms that we use to support internal communication. ODM did have some suggestions for areas that DASNY can improve. And in the area of policy updates, ODM suggested that DASNY create a standalone D&I policy that highlights the measures that we'll use, goals and objectives to make that clear to our staff. Our reasonable accommodation policy, they had recommended some updates. And in the area of workforce demographic data collection and reporting, ODM suggested that we implement a survey to collect demographic data and use that to measure areas such as retention, discipline, promotions, and things of that sort. In the area of recruitment and retention, they recommended that we set clear diversity goals, and that is throughout the industry. You know, the common saying is what gets measured gets done. That we advertise job postings to access additional diverse candidates, and that we include DASNY D&I in exit interviews. In the area of improvement of culture and employee morale, they recommended employee recognition programs, mentoring programs, and employee resource groups. This is another industry-wide practice that has been very successful to increase employee engagement and just overall job satisfaction. They also recommended specialized assignments and training programs as well to help individuals be promoted and move throughout the company, and again, towards staying engaged. Our path forward from here. So that was our assessment based on 2019 efforts, and we have, since getting our results in the fall of last year, we have made strides towards goals on our own before even getting the recommendations for ODM. We have done a lot to include D&I in the recruitment process and seamlessly working with HR to build a more diverse staff. And going forward, we will move forward with continued evaluation and improvement of our processes and practices concerning DASNY. And what does that look like? First, we are going to continue to work with ODM and use the support that they give, but we also want to bring in a D&I consultant to help do some of that assessment work that they talked about, collecting data, and then use that to build a strategy and design that to match with our business objectives. Part of the D&I work is to help our employees and build a workplace where they feel included, respected, and valued. And part of it is also to help our business objectives and to increase performance and solutions and outcomes. So from there, working with the consultant, working with ODM, we will take that strategy design and we will implement the initiative. And from there, we will evaluate and continue to audit the plan. And I use the graphic to show that this is a continual process, that we will continue to assess, to strategize, to implement, and to reassess to make sure that we are a leader in D&I, that we have a truly inclusive workplace, and that our goals and business objectives are being met. And we have combined our D&I goals with our overall strategy, and we are embracing diversity and inclusion to better finance, design, and build New York's future. We know that diverse and inclusive workplaces lead to better decision-making and outcomes and superior solutions for the communities we serve. And so with that, if there are any questions, I will take them. Other than that, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Nairobi. Any questions for Nairobi?
Well, Mr. President, I may have a question for you. The whole idea of retaining a D&I consultant, do we know yet that we need that? It's sort of a chicken egg thing. We have a brand new D&I thrust, a new path. I'm not taking any issue with the decision to hire a consultant, but are we clear that we actually need to do that yet?
Yeah, we've done some work, and I got to give Nairobi some really credit for diving into this new position, doing some work on seeing what best practices are, taking information that Michael Johnson had assembled. Nairobi also works with Donna Boykin, who's been at Dazny for a long time. And it was fairly clear that for us to establish a D&I in the correct way, having a consultant come on to help with some assessment work, as well as bring in some best practices from outside, are things that are important to us and will help get the program started properly. As we start to assess and do more work, we'll look at that in the future, whether we need additional consulting work. Nairobi has been working with procurement now to put a procurement out there, scope out there. It's not particularly expensive, and so I think that's
that was going to be my question, Ruben. Is it expensive to do?
Yeah, cost effective. And then we're also having good conversations about making sure that we have directed solutions to what DASNY needs, as opposed to spend a lot of time on the kind of bigger picture solutions. So I'm very comfortable and confident with the direction that we're going. Again, I just want to compliment Nairobi. She did not wake up one day, saying she's going to be a D&I officer, but she embraced it and has done a great job of getting up to speed, learning, and providing a lot of good energy for us. And I think it's just, we talk a lot about retirements and people, years of service. Some of our young folks have just brought great energy to our organization, and that's really exciting for me to see. And Nairobi is just one of many, so I appreciate that.
Ms. Vivas, it's Al Carney. Thank you very much. It was a great presentation.
Thank you so much. And Ruben, thank you for those kind words. I will also say, like I said, we will also use the support that we have from the Office of Diversity and Inclusion Management and myself and Donna, so that we are making sure we're using our resources properly and not just, leaning on the consultant, but we want to continue to do the great work that Dazny is doing and make everyone feel included and just bring in great talent and retain that talent to replace some of the people that are moving on now. So I'm excited about the work and excited about the challenge that it brings. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nairobi. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, sir. Is there any other business to come before this board in this meeting? Hearing none, may I have a motion please to adjourn?
So moved. So moved.
Thank you, Wellington. Is there a second?
I'll second. It's Beryl.
Beryl, thank you very much. All in favor, please indicate with aye.
Aye.
I don't believe there are going to be any abstentions or any opposed. Hearing neither, this meeting is adjourned. We will go off the record, come back on the record for the Atlantic Avenue Healthcare Property meeting.